we know that he intentionally shot the senator. That would not be fair to him.
Okay.
We don't know really what caused him to do this. This may have been a psychiatric hysterical reaction, for that matter, such as we have seen people in combat as usual during wars. They shoot a gun for the first time and go crazy and just keep on shooting it.
And Robert, wasn't there an audio recording that helps back up this theory that you're telling us about tonight?
Yes, the only known recording of the entire sequence of the assassination was captured by a Polish reporter by the name of Stanislaw Pruszynski. At the time, he was residing in Quebec, Canada, and was coming to the United States to cover the presidential campaigns of 1968. Stanislaw Pruszynski was in the Ambassador Hotel pantry at the time the shooting took place and had his recorder on, and he is the only known person and recorded the only known recording of the entire sequence. Later on, that recording was obtained from the mounted police up in Canada and taken to the FBI headquarters and copied, and the copy was kept at the FBI, and 2 copies were sent out to the Los Angeles Police Department. After many years, in fact 20 years, 1968 to 1988, the Los Angeles Police Department finally sent the Pruszynski tape to the California State Archives, where it reposed for many years until my co-author Philip Van Prague went there and saw that particular recording and tried to get a copy of it. It was given a very poor copy of it, and when he went back to his laboratory, he said, well, I've got to go back and listen to this more carefully, and he tried to get a recorder that was identical to the one that Pruszynski had. He finally was able to reconstruct one and go back and make the recording and then enhance it, and in the process of the enhancement, you think about, he started this in, about 2003, and he finally got it to the point where he could actually detect the shots that were being fired on that, or sounds of shots being fired on that tape, and he identified 13 shots. Of the 13 shots, he also could identify that 8 of those came from the position of Sirhan, and that 5 came from the position of the person standing behind and to the right of Senator Kennedy. He didn't get any more because at that point a woman screamed a horrible scream and blotted out any possibility of hearing any more shots on that particular tape.
Robert, why at the time didn't forensic experts, law enforcement investigating this case, government officials, do anything about this? It's obvious that there was more than one gunman, and again, we're not sure if the guard was the suspect or if he even did anything on purpose, but there was more than just Sirhan Sirhan involved.
Well, first of all, you have to realize that insofar as the forensic audio reconstruction of the sounds, there wasn't the equipment as sophisticated as we have presently. And neither were there people who were capable of doing this at that time. On the other hand, when it came to the physical facts, which I was more interested in, the Los Angeles Police Department, and I'm talking about the investigative detective agency part of it now, they goofed this entire investigation. For example, they had a schematic drawing of where the bullets were fired by Sirhan and where they went. And they had bullets going up into a ceiling tile to the left or behind Senator Kennedy and coming down and striking Elizabeth Evans in the forehead. Now, evidently they just overlooked the obvious, and the obvious was that he picked up the hospital record and looked at what happened to Elizabeth Evans according to what her doctor found when he examined her. They have noticed that the bullets went upward into her forehead, not downward.
Right.
So you can't have a bullet coming from the ceiling above you and going upward. That's impossible. So in their schematic drawing right there, they made an error. They didn't rope off the area. They didn't confiscate any guns, including Sirhan's gun that evening, at the crime scene. They only got that gun a couple of hours later after Rosie Greer had wrestled the gun from Sirhan, passed it off to Rayford Johnson, who about 2 hours later delivered it to the Los Angeles Police Department at Parker Center. So there were a lot of mistakes that were made. In addition to that, later when the investigating unit took the ceiling tiles down, they said they X-rayed the two tiles above and beyond the position of Sirhan. Then they destroyed the tiles, so nobody could follow behind them to find out the direction of the bullets into the tiles, whether or not there were lead or antimony or other components of that bullet in the tile, and that this was gone. Over 2,400 photographs were destroyed, including photographs that had been taken by a young man by the name of Enyard, who got the front part of his pictures back and the back part of the roll of films back, but the middle part was missing. Later, he had a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles and got a verdict of several $100,000 because they had destroyed his evidence. That kind of thing did not lend itself to people having confidence in the investigations that have been conducted by the Criminalist Division of the Los Angeles Police Department.
And also, Robert, Sirhan Sirhan has continued to claim, he's in his 60s now, he's in a California state prison, yes. Denied parole 13 times. A friend of mine who is now dead knew Sirhan Sirhan after the fact and would talk to him, and I think even visited him several times in prison. And Sirhan claimed that he was hypnotized at the time of the shooting. What a bizarre thing. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think it's so bizarre. Both Philip Van Praag and myself do not base our findings upon any theory of conspiratorial action, first of all. We're just basing it on factual data. But
right.
Sirhan, when arrested, had the appearance and gave the appearance of a person who was coming out of hypnotic trance. And the argument has been made that he indeed was hypno-programmed to do this. He has always claimed he never remembered doing any of this. I talked to his mother at great lengths about this. I refused to go to see Sirhan in prison when I had the opportunity to do so because I've now wanted to be biased either direction in this matter. So when you look at Sirhan, you say, well, was he indeed hypnotized? They have his diary, and in his diary there's all kinds of strange writings, and pay to the order Sirhan, for example, and RFK must die, etc. And there's one name in that diary that's very interesting. It's the name of DeSalvo. DeSalvo was the name of the Boston Strangler.
Right, Albert DeSalvo.
Right, and he was represented by F. Lee Bailey. And F. Lee Bailey had DeSalvo hypnotized by a man by the name of William Jennings Bryan III, who had bragged later that to a couple of prostitutes who he kept up in Las Vegas and also in Los Angeles, that he had hypnotized Sirhan. So that's where that comes from. Now, whether it's true or not, I cannot state because it's just those are the facts, and you read them any way you want. But there is a very good potential or a very good possibility that those people who are theorists on conspiracies could read into that Sirhan was hypno-programmed and reacted because of that.
Where would they have found Sirhan Sirhan prior to the assassination? I mean, he was obviously, there working, but I mean, before that, maybe a year or two. Where was he?
He was working as a exercise boy at a race track.
Okay.
And he also was involved in the Rosicrucians, and also had delved into the area of the unknown and hypno-programming and so forth.
But mobsters could have found him at a racetrack, right?
They could have.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence that we know of that happened. But and I'm sure there are going to be other authors who will be coming out with books, particularly since this is the anniversary year of the assassination, who may well have more information and may well dwell on this. So whenever I have been asked about this, I always say I do not denigrate anybody who goes into the realm of hypno-programming, but it is not germane to Philip Van Praag's and my findings in our book here on the open and shut case. We deal just simply with the physical facts and with the forensic science issues.
Do we know what happened to the gun that belonged to the guard?
Yes. That gun presently, as I understand, reposes at the Attorney General's office in the state of California.
Why don't we do a ballistics test with it?
Well, I understand that's being done, but
right now? Okay.
That's my understanding. But you have to understand that even if it came out negative, it doesn't change anything, because when you're doing a test on 22 caliber